Look at your hand for a second. Now, look at the room around you. Everything you are perceiving, feeling, and thinking right now costs currency. Not money, but biological currency. ATP, energy. Welcome to Levitas. Here is the most mind-blowing stat in all of human biology. Your brain makes up only about 2% of your total body weight. That's it. 2%. But it consumes a staggering 20% of your daily energy intake. Think about that. It is the most expensive piece of machinery you own. Now, what happens when a high-performance machine, like a Tesla or a massive supercomputer, doesn't get enough voltage? Do the lights just dim? Or does the software start to glitch? For decades, we've been told that clinical sadness, stress, even schizophrenia is a chemical imbalance, a serotonin issue, a dopamine issue. But cutting-edge research, specifically the revolutionary work of Dr. Chris Palmer from Harvard Medical School, released in 2022, is flipping that table over. The new theory is simpler, but it's also scarier. It suggests that these conditions aren't just chemistry problems. They are metabolic power failures. Your brain is suffering from a brownout. Today, we are going deep into the mitochondria theory of mental illness. We're going to talk about why your brain is starving even if you just ate, why Alzheimer's is now being called type 3 diabetes, and how things like seed oils and lack of sleep are literally breaking your brain's battery. Let's get into it. But first, please hit the like button and leave a comment. Your support helps the channel a ton with the algorithm. To understand this, we have to look at the tiniest organelle in your cells, the mitochondria. You remember high school biology, right? The powerhouse of the cell. But calling it a powerhouse is almost an understatement. It is a fusion reactor. These tiny structures take the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe and turn it into energy. In the brain, they are working overtime. Now, Dr. Palmer's brain energy theory posits something profound. He argues that mental symptoms are what happens when brain cells don't have the energy to function correctly, or, and this is key, when they don't have the energy to shut down correctly. Imagine a neuron responsible for fear regulation. If its mitochondria are healthy, it fires when there is a threat, and it stops when the threat is gone. But what if that cell is metabolically compromised? What if it lacks the energy to reset? It might stay stuck in the on position. That is chronic anxiety. Or what if the cells in your frontal cortex, the part of you responsible for motivation and joy, simply cannot produce enough voltage to run? They go dormant. That is depression. It's not that you won't get out of bed, it's that your brain's hardware literally lacks the horsepower to initiate the sequence. This is a metabolic crisis. And the scary part? We are doing things every single day that damage these batteries. This brings us to one of the most terrifying connections in modern medicine: insulin resistance in the brain. You know about type 2 diabetes. That's when your body's cells stop listening to insulin, so they can't absorb sugar from your blood. But did you know this can happen specifically in your brain? Researchers and neuroscientists are increasingly referring to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes. A 2020 review in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences highlighted how insulin resistance is a core feature of cognitive decline. Here is the mechanism. Your brain runs heavily on glucose. But if you are constantly spiking your blood sugar with processed carbs and sugar, your brain cells eventually say, enough. They become resistant to insulin. This creates a paradox. You might have high blood sugar, plenty of fuel floating around in your blood, but your brain cells are starving to death because they can't unlock the door to let the fuel in. When a brain cell starves, it shrinks. It stops communicating. Eventually, it dies. That cognitive fog you feel after a heavy carb lunch? That is a mini preview of this metabolic failure. You are literally disconnecting the power cord. But it's not just about the fuel source, it's about the engine itself. And this is where we have to talk about fats. Specifically, industrial seed oils like soybean, corn, canola, sunflower oil. Your brain is 60% fat. The structural integrity of every single neuron depends on the cell membrane. This membrane is the gatekeeper. It decides what nutrients get in and what toxins stay out. It also holds the proteins that allow electrical signals to pass. When you consume high amounts of omega-6 fatty acids found in these processed seed oils, you are building your brain out of faulty materials. Oxidized omega-6 fats are unstable. They are prone to inflammation. When these get incorporated into your mitochondrial membranes, they cause what's called proton leak. The battery can't hold a charge. Think of it like trying to insulate a high-voltage wire with cheap, cracking rubber. Eventually, you're going to get short circuits. In the brain, that short circuit looks like brain fog, irritability, and eventually, neurodegeneration. We must prioritize stable fats like olive oil, avocado oil, animal fats, and omega-3s to rebuild those cell walls. So if the problem is that the brain can't use glucose properly, what is the solution? This is where Dr. Palmer's work gets truly fascinating. He didn't start by trying to cure depression. He was looking at epilepsy. We have known since the 1920s that the ketogenic diet, a high-fat, very low-carb diet, stops seizures in epilepsy patients, even when drugs fail. Why? Because when you stop eating carbs, your body produces ketones. Ketones are an alternative fuel source. They are like high-octane jet fuel for the brain. Crucially, ketones can bypass that insulin-resistant blockage we talked about earlier. Even if your brain can't use sugar, it can happily burn ketones. Dr. Palmer had a patient with schizoaffective disorder, with hallucinations, paranoia, and morbid obesity. The patient tried keto just to lose weight. But something incredible happened. His voices stopped. His paranoia vanished. When they switched the fuel source from dirty glucose to clean ketones, the brain cells finally got enough power to regulate themselves. The mitochondria healed. This isn't magic, it's bioenergetics. By stabilizing the energy supply, we stabilize the mind. Now, changing your fuel is step one, but you also need to clean the engine. This brings us to a process called autophagy. Autophagy literally means self-eating. It is your body's recycling program. Your brain accumulates trash throughout the day. This is metabolic waste, misfolded proteins like the amyloid plaques in Alzheimer's. If this trash isn't cleared out, the gears get gummed up. Here is the catch. Autophagy only ramps up when insulin is low. That means it mostly happens when you are fasting or sleeping. If you are eating from the moment you wake up until right before you go to bed, your insulin never drops low enough to trigger deep autophagy. Your cleaning crew never gets to come to work. This is why intermittent fasting isn't just a weight loss tool. It is a brain cleaning tool. And it is why sleep deprivation makes you feel crazy. When you don't sleep, the glymphatic system, the brain's sewage system, can't flush out the toxins. You aren't just tired, you are toxic. Prioritizing 7 to 8 hours of sleep and allowing a 12 to 14-hour window without food gives your mitochondria the break they need to repair themselves. So let's tie this all together. Here is the doctor's verdict. The metabolic psychiatry revolution. If you are struggling with your mental health, please listen to me. Do not blame yourself. This isn't a failure of character. It isn't because you aren't trying hard enough to be happy. It is very likely that your hardware is underpowered. Your mitochondria are struggling to keep the lights on. The beauty of the metabolic theory of mental illness is that it is empowering. If the problem is metabolic, the solution is metabolic. You can change your brain's voltage. By reducing processed carbohydrates and sugar, you lower insulin resistance. By eliminating seed oils, you patch up your cell membranes. By integrating fasting and prioritizing sleep, you clean out the cellular junk. We are entering a new era of psychiatry, metabolic psychiatry. It offers hope where pills sometimes haven't. Your brain is resilient. It wants to heal. You just have to give it the right fuel to do the job. Watch this video suggestion. It was especially picked for you. Also share, comment, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It helps a ton with the algorithm. Remain tuned for future videos to empower your health and fitness journey. So, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep going.